Hey guys, and welcome to my first installment of my DAoC class reviews. I'm going to be trying to go through each and every class and kind of give you guys some information about it, about some popular specs, some abilities in each spec line, kind of do a little rundown about the class, maybe some templating tips, some things you want to look out for in templates, and just some general strategies about what you can do with that class in fights. I'm by no means an expert in most classes actually, but maybe I can share some knowledge with people looking at, maybe starting a class for the first time, don't know where to start. So today we're going to start with the Necromancer, and I'm going to break Necros into two videos, I think. One video is going to be the Painworking spec, which is the melee spec, and then the other video I'm going to look at the Death Servant and Death Sight spec lines, which are the more caster oriented specs. So let's go ahead and hop in to game real quick, and you'll see we're on my my Necro. I'm gonna go ahead and first have you notice the spec I am, and if you can't see it, it's 50 Painworking, 19 Death Sight, and 7 Death Servant. Now I'm going to go ahead and we'll look through what we get baseline before we start delving into what we get with each spec. But I like this spec. I mean, you pretty much need to go 50 Painworking, but we'll get to that in a second. So in your death sight baseline, this is where you get your first form. And with Necros nowadays, instead of having pets like you used to, you now get forms that you transform into, and I'll go ahead and transform to that form so you can kind of see what's going on. So in this form, I'll pull up the delve right here so you can kind of see it. If not, I'll give you the gist of it. So in this form, your magic damage increases by 10%, which is a pretty nice little buff. Your ABS increases slightly. It's a vague term. I haven't tested to see how much it is or anything like that, but your ABS goes up a little bit. And one of the big things is melee attackers that hit you, there's 100% disease proc rate on them. So anyone that attacks you with their weapon, they get diseased. So it's a pretty good defensive proc. And another big thing with this one is when you are in this form, your health regeneration increases. So with this form, say you're kiting, say you're in your normal tank form, which we'll get into in a second, but you need to kite. Maybe you have a chance to cast some spells, or you just want to kind of kite a little bit. Go into this form if you're at low health, and your health will spike up pretty quickly. It's a really good heal over time. Okay, so next, what we get into, we'll look at just the level 50 spells, but we get into probably the most important thing in this line is the life tap. So this is going to be your range nuke in this spec line. Well, this is spec combination, I should say. It's your standard life tap. It's not a high percent return, but it is 50% return, 179 delve, 2.5 second cast time. This is great to engage a fight with if you're solo, or for some nice reps or added damage from range and groups. Also gives you some health back, obviously. Hits relatively decently considering you only have 19 death sight. So yeah, this is an important spell. The next spell in this baseline is Unholy Ground. Now what this does is you just simply put a rune on the ground. Sorry, I put the wrong one. So this one's targeted, so you'll need to target someone, and then you cast this on them, and what it'll do is it'll place a rune on the ground. I'll do it in a second because I hit the wrong one on accident, but it'll cast a disease on that person. So it constantly casts disease at a ground target, but it's not a ground targeted spell. It's a targeted spell that sets a kind of a ground target mine, and anyone that runs over that gets diseased. Really good. Also, you can cast on someone from 500 range, and anyone around them will get diseased instantly. It's really nice. I find myself using that quite a bit. And then the third spell you get is a damage over time. Cast the damage over time. It's not instant or anything. It's just your standard. Sorry, I'm hitting the. Don't know what button this is. There we go. Locus. Is that it? Yep, I think so. Anyway, it's just your standard dot. Cast this, I guess, if you're soloing or something, and you get a cast off, it'll give you a little bit of a damage spike. If I'm casting, I normally just use my life tap. So next we'll go into the Death Servant. baseline, and the form in this baseline is called spirit form. And with this one, you get increased, instead of increased health regen, you get increased power regen. You get 10% free conversion, so that's really nice. However, you don't get that ABS boost from the Death Sight form. Let's see, you get a little bit of stealth lore. I don't think it's a huge raise, but it does help you see stealthers a little easily. And this one is really big with your pets, so we'll go into some pets in a second, but this one allows you to kind of upgrade what the pets do, and things like their health and things like that kind of change. But other spells in this line is this Imbue the Abyss. What this is an instant hot for you and your pet. So it's instant, it lasts about 15 seconds, really good, 30-second reuse. Just use it whenever you need health. The second ability, this is a really important ability. It's your 1500 range instant interrupt. It also is a power leak. And Necros can struggle from power a bit, so using this to keep your power up is nice. Also, I use it a lot as an interrupt as well. Also a little bit for spiking damage, as it does do a little bit of damage. It's not a huge damaging spell, but it does help a little bit. And then the mine in this line is a power regen mine. You'll see I'll throw it on my cleric here, and it gives him power. Whoever's staying around this mine right here gets power. It's okay, not as useful as the other ones in RVR. Good in PV, I guess, or good if you really need power, or your cleric or someone really needs power. Say you're grouping with a caster mauler or something, throw it on him. Give him a little bit of power help. And I'm not going to spend too much time in this video going over each pet, since in the form you'll primarily be in, you won't be able to run a pet. That's one of the downfalls of it. But there's your melee pet. There's a healing pet. It kind of got nerfed relatively recently. Also, keep in mind, all of this information is current to this patch. I don't know the number, but it's March 14th. So whatever patch we're in, then there's a pet that mezzes. There's a pet that casts damage and debuffs and things like resist debuffs. I think it diseases, but you won't be in the forms enough, in my opinion, to really warrant me going into that. I'll go into that on the caster Necro video. So now we'll go into the Painworking baseline, and in this line, this is your form, your Painworking form, your melee form. What this does is it gives you a significant boost in health, 30% health boost. It gives you a chance to parry. I believe that is, I don't know, maybe 20%, 24%. I don't know off the top of my head the exact percent. It increases your melee absorb by 20, which is a relatively significant number. I think that's better than studded, if I'm not mistaken. And it also raises your magic resist by 15%. But that's secondary resist. Also, there's a weird thing. I can't use rings like Ring of Arcane Gestures or any sort of 10% magic charge. I'm not able to use that in this form. I'll show you really quick. Let's use 2. You do not meet the requirements needed to use this. So that's a little bit of a drawback, but you do get 15% for free. I have a little bit of AOM, so it shows 18% now. I think I have like AOM 2. Yeah, so that's 3%. So 15% for free. And you also, like I said, you can parry, and your armor factor's increased. Generally, I have, I don't know, maybe like 10, close to 1100 armor factor, which is pretty good considering I'm actually a cloth wearer. And I have a little bit better than studded, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's quite as good as chain, but it is, yeah, I think chain is 27%, whereas I get 20. So it's a little bit worse than chain, but I get a ton of armor factor. Also, just a tip, it's a good idea when you're going into that form to use buff bonus, because it increases your armor factor and I believe your hits. So as you can see, I'm using a ring here with, sorry, the ring has 18% buff bonus, my hat has 5%. So I'll throw these both on, go into this form, put my normal gear back on, and I have more AF and hits. Actually, I don't know if hits are affected. We'll test that really quick. No, hits aren't affected, but your armor factor is. So if you want more armor factor, you get roughly, I think, was it, I have 1008 now. Oops. And now I have 1054. So roughly a little under 50 armor factor for free. So use that. The next thing in the Painworking line is a self buff, just a damage shield. It's a pretty strong one, so use it if you want. If you're in a group and you don't want to break CC, don't use it, because tanks that are rude that hit you, they get unrated, so be careful about that. A big thing is your instant con debuff. Use this on any target you're hitting, any target in a group that you can, just throw the con debuff on. 7-second reuse, last 45 seconds, so hit as many people as you can with that. Definitely if you're hitting. The mine in this baseline is called Freezing Ground. What it does is you just throw it on a space. You don't have to target anyone. It goes directly under your feet, and it just has a pulsing damage, just extra damage, interrupts if you need them. Pretty decent ability. It was, I think, nerfed recently, but still useful. All right, so now let's get into the spec lines, and what we're going to do is just go into the Painworking, since we have 50 Painworking. That's our primary spec. It's a small spec line, as you can see. You get, I don't know, 8 abilities or so, 7 abilities. We're going to go ahead and start off with your weapon. So Painworking Necros have to use their Painworking weapon. It's kind of a weird melee system. You can't just throw in a random two-hander and wail on people. You have to use this Nether's Bane weapon. And what you do to use it is you just kind of cast it. I might delete my old one. So it takes 10 seconds or so to cast, 15, whatever. And this weapon spawns in your inventory. It's a pretty good weapon. It is cold damage, so you are limited to using cold damage as a Necro. You can't use slash, you can't use crush, whatever's cold. So going up against heavy tanks or things with a live AOM or high resist, you do kind of run into an issue there. Whereas if I were a paladin, I could use slash and then throw in a cold leggy if I really wanted to. Anyway, so stats on this ability are pretty decent. You have 5 of your mythical DPS, so it's easy to template. A lot of quickness, a lot of skills, and some mythical acuity cap, which is your damage type. Your damage type is not strength, is not dex, is not anything other than acuity, intelligence. So that's what you're templating around, and I'll get to that later. So the big thing about this weapon is the proc. There's this, it's a speed decrease, and from my experience, it's not breakable on damage. It lasts, the duration says 4 seconds. Not sure if it's affected by that, if I'm being quite honest with you, but it's a pretty good proc. I mean, it keeps people in place pretty easily. If you're hitting a healer or something and this procs, then it can't really get away from you. If you hit a tank with it as you're passing by, it might peel for you for a second. And then the other proc is just a DD, cold damage, decent delve, I guess. It's okay. And there's another proc. I think this actually procs with the root, or the speed decrease. The other proc increases your critical chance of your next hit by 25%. So that's, relatively decent for your 25% chance to crit. I'd imagine this goes over the base crit cap. So you'll be critting quite a bit with this. And moving on, that's pretty much all there is to know about that weapon and ability. So the next ability is essentially a self-rampage, and what rampage does is it gives you 100% chance to resist debuff spells. So if you're going up against a champion per se, you want to have this up pretty early in the fight. It lasts 45 seconds, a minute and a half reuse, but I mean, if you're fighting a champ 1v1 and you're not debuffed for 45 seconds, it's probably dead with Necro. Champs kind of rely on their debuffs, so you want to use it against pretty much anything that has any sort of negative debuff spell. Casters, stealthers, champs, whatever. Pretty good ability, and you can use it on your realmmates, as you can see here. I can cast it on my friend, or I can cast it on myself. Obviously, it's on reuse right now, so can't do that. Next ability, this is a really nice ability. It's a targeted instant dot. The range is 500, so it's not a really good interrupt. It can be okay. It's good if you're trying to rip through bodyguard, or if you're like running into like two casters, or caster and support, and they're right beside each other. You can hit both of them with it. It's a 250 radius, pretty big radius, and it does okay damage. This ability got nerfed relatively recently. Again, this is March 14th, 2017, so About a month ago, I guess, maybe a few weeks ago, it got nerfed. It did do a lot of damage and it had a shorter reuse, but it does okay. You have to be in this form, and it also gives you a movement speed debuff. So you use it, you can catch a target pretty easy with it. Doesn't give immunity to slows or anything, so that's cool. So let's see, we'll throw it on my cleric. You can see hitting for about 81 damage, just gave it seal resist. You know, it adds up over time. You know, it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times or so. With, I don't think I have any duration in my template, so pretty decent spell. Up every 20 seconds. Next ability, this one's really important, especially in groups. It's called Way of Magic. Now what this does is it pulses. If I'm not mistaken, every 5 seconds it refreshes. And we'll go ahead and cast that. But it pulses, and what it does is if you get hit by a spell, it will heal you for 100% of the damage. So if you get hit for 500, instead of taking 500 damage, you get healed for 500. And then that refreshes every 5 or so seconds. So and it's not just a self buff, it's a group buff with a 1250 radius. So your front line is pretty well protected. And I'll see if this cleric can do some damage. As you can see here, hits you for 0, heals you for 214. Now sorry, I did it again. I do a little damage to myself. Okay, so you saw me getting damaged a little bit, and then you saw it heal me once. And you saw my health get back up. My health's at roughly 89, and then boom, pops back up to, you know, 95 or whatever. So really good ability. That's really important. The next ability is essentially a Fury, which is what heavy tanks get, or like an Astral Cloak charge or something like that. It increases your secondary magical resist by 50%. And keep in mind, you already have a free 15% secondary resist buff. So that's pretty strong. It's a 10-minute reuse timer, lasts 15 seconds. If you're getting blown up in a group by casters, there you go. Makes you really hard to kill. Also, if you're fighting, say you're fighting a Nightshade that's using dual legies or something, pop that. Or if you just want to mitigate some of the life vein damage, boom. Really strong ability, 10-minute reuse, pretty good though. I'll use it real quick. I'll show you my secondary resist right now. If you can't, if it's too small, it's 18% secondary, and then boom, 68% secondary, and that's only with AOM 2. So if I had AOM 7 or something, that'd be pretty ridiculous. I'd be getting hit for nothing by magic. Really strong ability too. Let's see, back to Painworking. And the next thing is called Ice Bracelet. Now this one is really, really good. What it is an instant 1-minute reuse root, essentially. So what this does is I'm running at a target and it's 1,000 range away, and I want to catch up to it, or I want to peel something off a friendly caster or something. I'll hit this, and then I can actually run over to it and start hitting them. So it's unbreakable. So cleric's running. Let me put on my weapon real quick. Cleric's running away. Nope, not anymore. And I can still hit him through it. It lasts about 6 seconds. And yeah, that's super good, super good, super good for keeping people in place, catching up to people, and you can swing through it. It's essentially a really, really strong pin, and yeah, pins a style that Valkyries, Reavers, and Champions get. It's super good, unbreakable snare. But anyway, so that's essentially the entire Painworking line. Now we'll just go into Death Sight really quick. I only have 19 of it, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time. Essentially what I wanted was this root. It's a 19-second root. It's green con, so resist a bit, but it's a 50. It's a normal root. It's just low duration. Standard 1500 range root, 2.5 second cast time. Just yeah, good old fashioned root. Breakable by damage, whatever. So yeah, that's the other things. I get an AoE dot. It's an AoE interrupt, I guess. It doesn't really hit for much, but if you need to AoE interrupt something, use this, I suppose. The other two aren't really important. Don't ever use them, so I'm not really going to go into them. Death Servant, don't really get anything. All right, so that's it for the spell version, or the spell portion. Now what we'll do is we'll go into the Painworking melee styles. I'm not going to go over every single style probably. I'll go over the big ones. So your first style is your anytime style. It has like a 1% armor debuff. It's okay. It's just a low endurance cost. Peppy Hill font so I can heal a little bit. It's a low endurance cost and relatively low damage style. It still hits, you know, hard. I mean, Necros hit hard in general, so it's not terrible, but we'll show you what it looks like at least. So yeah, it's okay. The next style is a follow-up to that. Now this one costs a bit more endurance, and it does a little bit more damage, and it also gives you a 5% chance to evade for 10 seconds, which is pretty good. So what you'll want to do is chain those if you want to. There you go. That's that gist. Let's see. The next style is your after parry style. It's really good. Does high damage. Medium endurance cost. Endurance can be an issue on Necros too. Just keep that in mind. And it reduces its attack speed reduction. So really good for solo. Definitely want to be using that. Now the follow-up to that, I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the follow-up since we're already on that, is a very high hitting style, high damage, low endurance cost, and it completely removes all ablatives from your target. So if your target had an SOM proc, or the other world click proc, whatever people are using nowadays, or just some random armor proc, gone, gets away with it. I don't know if this is applied before or after the damage is. So I don't know. You'd probably go through the proc anyway on this damage, but I assume it's applied before, but I haven't tested. Back to the side style. This is what I go for a lot when I'm soloing and in groups, obviously. What it is a pretty hard hitting style, and it diseases. On every hit you land of this, it diseases. Really strong. And what you'll want to do is combo that with Frostbite. Frostbite is an after side style. What it does is a 7-second stun that hits very hard. So boom, and then we'll see the Frostbite. I'm gonna go ahead and make this font a little bigger so you can kind of see kind of what's going on with this. So we have boom, oh, hitting the reju font, boom, and then okay. So that first style I hit was actually the after side style because I hit this. Sorry. All right. So you can see that hits pretty hard, and then this will hit a little bit harder. Stuns, really good style. It's combo you'll be using a lot. And then the next style is your front style. Now this is a really good style. I mean, it hits hard. I mean, it says medium, but it hits pretty hard, and it says 12 damage to cold damage to all enemies in front of you, but I think that's a mistype. Definitely hits harder than 12 for a spell proc. The issue with this style is it's a very high endurance cost, so you can only get like 4 or 5 of them off without an impot. So you're going to want to use this sparingly unless you just for some reason have an insane amount of endurance, which you can't if you use a strong drive invigoration and you use the freezing king myth, which has 5 in regen. Oops. Then you can probably hit these all day. But anyway, so okay, if I don't get blocked by my cleric. You can see it hits pretty hard, 404, and it does 127 proc damage. 127, so I don't know where that 12 damage proc comes from, but hits pretty hard. So next we'll go into Frozen Edge, which is your back style. Now this is probably the most, like if you get someone stunned, or if you can go for any side or style chain, you can go for this one. Go for the back chain. So the first style, Frozen Edge, hits pretty hard, okay? But what it does is applies a 35% cold debuff to your target for 12 seconds. Now that's important because all your damage is cold, even your melee, even your dots, whatever. Your life tap's not cold, but all your painworking stuff is cold. So what you'll do is you'll hit someone with that, and then we'll go to the next hit. We'll see how much harder it is. You see, look at the damage difference from the first time I hit it, 308, applied the debuff after the hit, and then the second time I hit him, 525. That's a huge resist debuff. Pretty big. And the follow-up style to that, it's called Death Seeker. super hard hitting style, like ridiculously hard hitting. So I'll hit someone with my Frozen Edge, and I'll follow up. Hits for 500, you know, on a chain target. Obviously got variant, so I'll hit him again. 676, huge damage there. Like, this is where melee necros really start to shine in their damage, is this back chain. And also, if you have friends that have cold weapons or casters that have cold damage, boom, great combination. Anyway, this ability, other than doing damage, is really good to use on healing classes and groups, things that have any sort of heals, Valkyries, whatever, shamans, healers, bards, wardens, who cares. It poses a 50% penalty to the effectiveness of the heal spells cast by that target. So it's a healing debuff. It's essentially anti-heal in DAoC, besides disease. It's a anti-heal from the source. So really, really strong. Also, in the solo and small man game, where there are a ton of heal procs nowadays, this debuffs them. So those pesky heal procs, halved, cut in half. And then also, if you land a disease and then that chain, they're diseased and they have a 50% healing debuff. So they're essentially healing what, for, I guess, 25%? Is that how it works? Because you cut in half and then you cut half in half. Regardless, their healing gets severely nerfed. So that's essentially the Painworking line in a nutshell. As I mentioned, I talked about some combos earlier, but what I like to do is, if I'm starting a fight, if I can, I'll start with life taps. You know, if you want to, you can throw a dot on someone. Dot over time probably does more damage than the life tap. But yeah, throw some life taps out, dot. You definitely want to con debuff them. And then as they get close, I'll hit them with my 3, which resists. Remember my 3, sorry, my freezing howl, which is the instant dot with the slow on it. Go ahead and get that ticking. It has a 20-second reuse, lasts for 10 seconds. I'll probably also hit them with a power absorb. I might save it on some classes in case they interrupt me, so I can interrupt them when they start casting. And then during the fight, I'll just pretty much I'll chain my parry style and my anytime chain. And a lot of times I'll go for side stuns. I'll run through and do all sorts of stuff to try to get to their side to hit them with my side style and the follow-up style to that. So that's pretty much what I do. And once I get him stunned, I'll hit him from the back. If I have a lot of endurance, or if I really need to get some damage out quickly, I'll use my front style instead of my anytime style. And also, another good way of getting out damage is this the freezing ground, which is your Painworking baseline little mine. Throw that on the ground. A good combo to use with this is to then use your ice bracelet, which is your instant little 95% speed decrease, or 90% speed decrease, and then they can try to run away, but they can't. They're stuck for extra ticks in that mine. It's not a huge amount of damage, but it does add up. So it's a pretty good deal. And then yeah. Oh, also one thing that is really strong, it's in your Death Servant line, is this little level 3 instant snare. Now it's only a 10% snare and it's on a 5-minute reuse timer, but it resists a lot because it's so low level. And when it resists, it interrupts. So I'll go ahead and queue up some casts. Okay, it would not resist on my cleric, but anyway, a lot of the times it'll resist and it'll interrupt that person, but not go on cooldown if it resists. So that's really important. If it resists, it does not go on cooldown. So you retain that, and it's 1,000 range. So it's a really good interrupt if it resists. Even if it doesn't resist, at least it interrupts once. So throw that on there. And we'll go ahead and talk about the rank 5. Rank 5 puts you into all forms. It gives you the benefit of literally every single form you have, all 3 forms at least, and it buffs the effects by 10%. So pretty strong. You get more armor factor, more hits, better regen on your health. It's really strong. It's a 15-minute reuse, lasts 30 seconds, so there is quite a bit of downtime on it, but really good ability nonetheless. Let's see, any more cool strats? In groups, a lot of times I'll obviously be, my primary job is to kill stuff. you don't really have a ton of, you're not really a peeler. You have a side disease into a stun, but that's kind of hard to reliably peel with. You don't really do that. Your weapon can peel, but it's based on a proc. It's not a style, so it's trying to peel just isn't really what you're trying to do. Well, what I try to do a lot is just go kill stuff and interrupt stuff while I'm doing it. I use my power tap for rups. A lot of the times I'll use this little instant snare thing for rups or to catch someone. I'll use my my other low-level instant snare for rups. It's not reliable. Like once it's gone, it's pretty much gone for that fight. I use my disease a lot, especially if there are multiple targets in an area, just to get a boom, just instant disease on those targets, and then it leaves a mine, so whoever runs over that mine gets disease as well. I'll use my freezing ground, this little thing, sometimes if I want to rep through a BG or something. I'll use this pretty much if I'm hitting someone. And they're not around someone else, it'll break their CC, because it is a dot, 10 seconds, so keep that in mind. Don't use it on everything, because your group might need to CC it later within that 10 seconds. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of run around and kill stuff. They're running away. I'm over here trying to catch him. Oh no, he's getting away. So I'll use this, and boom, I can instantly catch up with him, dot him, and then I'm on top of him and just killing him. Hit super hard. The drawbacks to Necro in group is that you are very easy to peel. All you have is a little bit of parry. You have no peel of your own to kind of counter peel them. You don't have a big shield with a lot of defense built in, so if someone wants to come peel you, they can come peel you. You know, you can't really. It's not like even like a merc or something where you can at least go for a side stun or a back snare or side snare or whatever. You're literally a sitting duck for peels, and you do take a bit of melee damage. Even though you have a ton of AF and ABS, you still, you get hit by light tanks, 250, 300, main hand, get hit pretty hard. And that's kind of the downfall solo too, is you can't buy master parry, you can't spec into parry to get even more percent. You're kind of lacking on defense. And honestly, just pure melee mitigation. Your health isn't extraordinarily high for a tank. It's 2770 is what mine is. You can probably get a little more health than that, but it's not like you're running 3k 3200 hits like a lot of tanks these days are. So your health's not super high. Your standard kind of hybrid health pool, which is pretty low. Stealthers like Shadowblades have like 3k hits. I don't even know what Shadowblades have nowadays, but they have more than I have on Necro. So those are some of the downfalls. Upticks are just insane damage. Good control. It's hard to get away from a Necro. Necros shouldn't lose to casters, really. It's like the anti-caster. That Way of Magic is so strong, and it's a group buff. So many ways to rup casters, like in a 1v1 or a small man scenario. And they just hit super hard. Your warlord or your ML lines, I'll go ahead and hit on those. For melee Necros, I think you should probably just be Warlord. You can go Convoker, but you can't ML9 your pet, because you can't have a pet in this form. This is the form you'll be in most of the time. Speed Warp's nice, but that's really the only other thing. Presence Node maybe, but those aren't really too useful. War Guard's super strong, 25% or 25 extra absorb strong. A pet scare, your 10% heal. Defending Martyr in groups is super strong. It's a really good ability. It takes away 50% of your health and heals your group for 1,000 within a 2,000 radius. I mean, if your druid or your friar's getting drilled or your cleric's getting drilled and you're not in danger, just go ahead and boom, pop it. It's an instant heal for your group, and you get on to 50. Who cares? They're not even paying attention to you. So yeah, that's pretty strong. And there's some other things in Warlord, but those are the main bits in my opinion. Let's see, for templates, I'm going to go ahead and just, what I have in my template is for melee Necro, if you're soloing and stuff, you probably want some sort of breastplate with a heal over time and a strong instant heal. I believe the Arielite breastplate has the heal over time, and then the Cursed set has a heal over time. Also, you want to get a lot of mythical DPS. This has some. Your Mytherian you use has some, and your weapon has some. So it's pretty easy to cap on mythical DPS. So maybe look at using the Bloodlord's armor, which is a curse set. or the Ardilite. Also, just to note, the cursed set, if you use the, I believe it's boots, arms, and chest piece, it increases the backstyle cold debuff by 5 seconds. So I don't use it on my Necro personally. I don't think it's worth it. I want it for other things. It's nice to have, but whatever. It's not the end of the world. If you want to fit that in, go for it. I think Infernal Sleeves are nice. I think you use a lot of power. You do have a life tap or a power tap, which does replenish your power pretty well, but you still use a lot. I like Infernal Sleeves. They're optional though. Let's see, other big things. You want to use the Curse Gloves, super strong. The use on them is a 25% heal. It heals me for 700 damage. It's usable in combat. It's 50-minute reuse, so that's pretty long, but it's an in combat 700 health heal. I think that's super strong. In groups, in solo, I think it's pretty necessary. Let's see. You don't need magic charges. At least the ones I've tried don't work. I haven't tested all magic charges. 10% secondary magic charges, that is. So it just fit in the template. I needed these stats. You're going to want to use a melee charge probably if you're soloing. 10% melee resist charge. I use this gem and a belt with it. I went for conversion on my Necro. So I have CTR, which gives me 5% conversion. This belt gives me 3% conversion, and my chest piece gives me 2% conversion. I like damage conversion. I have capped 10%, so it's essentially 10% resist is what that does. Pretty nice. Solo, these otherworldly stalwart cloaks. It's got essentially a SOM proc and a harpy feather proc. You can use either. I use the SOM one. If you're a dual wielder, harpy feather's really good. And the Mytherian, like I mentioned earlier, Freezing King Myth. It gives you some quickness, some Enregen, which is really nice. 5 Enregen. That's essentially old red endurance. Really strong. It also gives you some DPS, so helps you get to that DPS cap. I swap to my sword and shield when I'm casting. I get more dex and cast speed. I'm using, I think, a Pixelayer Buckler and Pixelayer Rebuke Mace, so that's good stuff. I'm using the Ardilite boots, but it's up to you. They're not necessarily insanely good. They just kind of fit my template. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, Ghostly Metal Valor. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. That is a super strong heal over time. It's a was it Eternal Plant? I think it has the same exact use as Eternal Plant. I don't know why more people didn't use Eternal Plant if they could. But now everyone's using Ghostly Metal Valor. 10% heal over time for 30 seconds. Insanely strong. And it's got really good utility. Super easy to fit in the template and super good proc. So I think that's pretty much it for templates. Yeah, you can go for different stuff depending on what you're wanting to do. A lot of people may put Crowns of Her in there for the power to health transfer deal. I couldn't really fit it. But it is a good helm to use for small man necros and maybe even full group necros, solo necros, whatever. There are tons of options, tons of ways you can go, but those uses I listed, like the gloves, the necklace, and maybe like a melee charge, are pretty important. And for solo, the heal over time chest piece is pretty important. Those are my staples, I think. And then from there, you can kind of choose what you want. RAs for group, I think any tank that can get that in a group should get that. I'm currently in group spec. I grouped on it the other night. Got det 9. Sorry. AOM's good for any tank that has to get in there. I don't have a lot of AOM right now because my job was to kill things, and we were fighting a tank group, so I didn't really need much. So I went Mastery Pain 4, and Dual Threat 1. Dual Threat is a really, really good RA for people that can get it. One, even if you don't care, I'm using it mainly for the melee crit chance, but even if you don't care about your magic chance to crit, it can be a way more cost-efficient way to get crit. So let's see, how much does, let's see, Wild Power, let's just look at that. So actually, let's go back and look at Dual Threat first. So Dual Threat, at level 1 is a 5% chance to crit melee and magical, cost 5 points. Okay. Now let's go back and look at wild power, the magic crit chance. So it goes up by, a lot of times it goes up, goes up from 3 to 6, goes up by 3 in increments, and then it jumps up, goes up by 4 for a few levels, and then at level 6 through 7, and pretty much, well, yeah, 6 through 7, 6 and 7, it goes up by 5%, which is how much dual threat increases it. So from level 5 to 6, it goes up by 5. So how much does it cost to go from level 5 to 6 on wild power? It costs 5 points. So if you're spending 5 points for 5% extra crit, just go for dual threat, because then you get, boom, you get your melee crit also. And then as you go from 6 to 7, it costs another 5 points. Yeah, so if you're going from 6 to 7 or 5 to 6, just get dual threat 1. And then to go from 7 to 8, it costs 7 points. You do get 6% more crit, but I think it's just better off to go for dual threat 1. So once you get to essentially level 5, wild power or mastery of pain, if you can get dual threat 1, go ahead and get it next. It's nice on Necro because you can crit on your spells. I'm not going to get much more dual threat because it stops becoming cost efficient after level 1. But anyway, back to my group RAs. I got crit for melee, mastery of pain and dual threat 1, and then some purge 3. I like 10-minute reuse, purge, slams, roots, whatever. You don't have stoicism, so you still kind of need the purge. For solo, you're going to want whatever level of purge you're comfortable with. I usually run purge 4. I think it's really important to have purge. I don't quite think it's worth all the points for purge 5, but I do like purge at 7.5-minute reuse. I usually get IP2. I have heal bonus in this template, so IP2 really heals for a lot. You can go for IP3, but I find IP2 to be fine. But I do think IP is really nice on solo Necros. And after that, I usually go for just crit also, dual threat, and dual threat and mastery of pain. What I'll also buy solo, usually, not all the time, is Ichor of the Deep. And that's just if someone's running or I need to create space from someone that's on me so I can kite out, I'll Ichor them. It's a 10-second root. It resets root immunity, so sometimes I'll buy it in groups. If I'm running with a coordinated group and we can call an Ichor reroute, because I can't really root stuff that well, I'll Ichor something and then someone else can root it again. So that's strong, but it requires some coordination. But Ichor is really strong too if you want to try to get it. Other than that, you can get Soldier's Barricade. If you're higher ranked, maybe get it. I don't know. But I would also, once you get good level of mastery of pain, whatever you think is worth it, and dual threat, then to increase your damage, you go augmented acuity, because that's your damage stat. Boom. Your quickness is pretty good. I have, let's see, how much quickness do I have? I have 248, so 250 is the cap. I think that's with some points in quickness at creation. I think Avalonians might be capped if you have. I have 80 quickness in my template, pretty easy to reach. You want to go for intelligence in your temps, con, whatever. Yeah, so I think that about sums up most of Necro. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. If you have any sort of, if you have any ideas for things you want me to do other than classes, like maybe you want me to work out certain mechanics or other random DAoC tutorials, I might can help. I don't know everything, but if I have knowledge about it, I can share it with you. Back to Necro, sorry to kind of jump around. If you're soloing, even in groups, in my opinion, I leveled up my alchemy to 886. If I can find it, yeah, 886 alchemy. That allows you to recharge celerity charges. I just have a charge on this random crafted helmet used for buff bonus. Recharge it with these things, or use celerity potions. I think the value's better, but I'm too poor to afford celerity potions, so I just use charges. Really needed solo. Even in groups, if you have a paladin, sometimes you get out of range. Just throw on your celerity charge, boom. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, any suggestions of things I should do differently, maybe not ramble as much, maybe hit some high points, whatever your suggestions are, leave them in the comments. I'm going to try to put out a lot more videos. I'll probably save this video until I get another couple made, so I can just throw up a few at a time. But yeah, if you have any comments on things I should do other than classes, or if you have any classes you really want to see that I haven't done yet, let me know. Thanks a ton for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.